Joining us now to discuss this further is Sultan Zahidov, leading advisor, Center of Analysis of International Relations of Baku, and Dr. Eytan Cohen, Yanarocak, a Turkey expert at the Moshe Dayan Center in Tel Aviv University. Sultan, I'm going to start with you. Azerbaijan organized the meeting, and we know that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was supposed to have visited Baku this week. What is Azerbaijan's interest in this?
Well, as you already mentioned, today representatives of both Israel and Turkey will hold a meeting in Baku to discuss the situation around Syria. And I would like to remind you that this is the second round of these crucial negotiations following the initial discussions in Baku on April 9th. And I believe today's agenda will likely cover critical issues such as establishment of joint military coordination mechanisms to prevent accidental clashes in Syria, addressing each other's concerns, and so on. This meeting for me clearly signals a mutual willingness from both Turkey and Israel to de-escalate tension in the region around Syria. And I believe neither Turkey nor Israel is interested in such escalation because possible escalation and confrontation for me can threaten the entire Middle East region. And Azerbaijan, who has brotherly ties with Turkey and good level of relationship with Israel, is definitely not interested in escalation, and therefore Azerbaijan is trying to provide a neutral platform for parties to negotiate and settle their issues.
All right, and what is Turkey looking to get out of these talks? What is their goal for these conversations?
Well, we all remember when these negotiations began. First of all, Israel took very bold measures in the field. The Israeli air forces bombed the Palmyra, Hama, and T4 military air bases. And we all later then saw that Azerbaijanis invited both the Turkish side and the Israeli side to Baku. And only after that, the Turkish side, agreed to sit together with the Israelis. But even when they did that, I also would like to remind you that they even did not open their airspace, so that the Israeli delegation had to travel all the way to Azerbaijan via Greece, Bulgaria, Black Sea, Georgia, Armenia, and then they could manage to get to Azerbaijan. This is also showing us the real tension between Israel and Turkey, that two countries which, supposed to have bilateral relations since 1949, why do they suppose to need Azerbaijan, for instance, to have a direct contact? It's really unfortunate to see that both countries that never declared hostilities towards each other, need a third party. Of course, I would like to make it clear here that we really do appreciate Azerbaijan's efforts to mend the fences between Jerusalem and Ankara. We really cherish this relationship, but again, we also have to say the truth.
All right, and Sultan, Azerbaijan here, a strong ally of Israel. What is the relationship when it comes to Turkey?
Well, the relationship between Azerbaijan, we have brotherly, very friendly ties with Turkey. These ties are based on the ethnic, cultural, historic, let's say, ties between our states. And therefore, Turkey is one of the allies of Azerbaijan in accordance to the Shusha Declaration, which was signed in June 2021. But on the other side, we do have good level of relationship with Israel as well. And therefore, as I already mentioned, both Israel and Turkey, I believe, trust the sincerity of Azerbaijan in providing such a platform to conduct negotiations between the parties. And for me, the most important thing is not the where these negotiations are held, the most important thing is that the negotiations are being held to de-escalate the situation.
All right. Hi. The most important thing is that talks are being held. That said, you're talking about the rapidly worsening relationship between Israel and Turkey. Where do we stand now, and could these talks somehow help the situation on the ground, not just in Syria, but overall the relationship? Could it help better it in the right direction?
Well, in this regard, unfortunately, dear Bianca, I'm very pessimistic. As you mentioned in the beginning of the news coverage, that I heard it from you that Mr. Erdogan again criticized the state of Israel in an unprecedented manner. You said that. Given these kind of anti-Israel delegitimization attempts on daily basis, so of course we cannot speak about a genuine normalization between the two countries. You know, to have such a atmosphere, we need to pave the way for this kind of a warm environment. However, what we are witnessing is that the Turkish side, unfortunately, is deteriorating the relationship in a steady manner. Only last week, we were all informed about the Turkish Airlines and Pegasus Airlines unilateral decision of not renewing their slots in the Ben Gurion airport, which is a very bold decision. These two companies profited a lot of money from this venture. And if they are making now a U-turn, so it is a political decision. And who is responsible of this political decision? Again, we have to be, we have to be very transparent. This is because of Mr. Erdogan's anti-Israel stance. And therefore, such a situation, unfortunately, we cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. As long as we have Mr. Erdogan in Turkey, and as long as we have Mr. Netanyahu in Israel, in my opinion, unfortunately, we will not be able to get to anywhere. The pictures that you're showing right now to the audience are kind of a science fiction movie. Don't you agree with me?
A science fiction movie. I want to bring this conversation into the studio as well. We have here talks going on, the second round of talks in Azerbaijan, a trusted mediator. And at the same time, the relationship between Israel and Turkey is really suffering. Let's put it that way. And it has been in a long time. We are also seeing, though, Israel having conversations with Syria. There is a flurry of diplomacy going on here behind the scenes. Is this something that can actually have some effect on the ground? Is it something that can help better the situation? Or is it really just a last attempt?
Well, I think, Dr. Eytan's analysis really hits the nail on the head. We have an ideological problem that's emanating from Turkey. Turkey is a NATO member. It's enjoyed a very good relationship with Israel before the rise to power of President Erdogan and his AKP party. And it's not a coincidence that ever since the Islamists control Turkey's regional and foreign policy, all of the trouble began between Turkey and Israel. This is an ideological issue. They are pro-Hamas, this government. They are pro-Islamist, and they view the situation in Syria as an opportunity to expand neo-Ottoman Islamist ideological goals, expansion, sending, they've already got militias set up across Turkey. Now they want, across northern Syria. Now they want to expand their presence as well. They want to become the chief supplier of the Syrian army because Turkey has advanced military industry, manufacturing of drones and missiles and other capabilities. So these are things that are serious concerns for Israel. Now the talks, it doesn't cost anything to talk. It's good that these conversations are going on. But I think Israel's baseline posture is going to be very little trust, very little faith, very little risk-taking after the 7th of October, not letting any potentially hostile elements near the border. And if they want to talk and try to change Israel's mind, then they're certainly welcome to do so.
It doesn't hurt to talk. At the same time, we're hearing sort of broadly here quite a pessimistic approach to these conversations. Ariel, I want to ask you, is there something that can be done apart from talking to help the situation right now? Are there steps that can be taken that can sort of help shift this around?
Look, if anyone's looking for reestablishing full diplomatic ties between the two countries, that's not on the table right now. The goal of these discussions is to coordinate various de-escalation mechanisms in order to, in recognition that the emerging reality in Syria is one that both Israel and Turkey have a lot of interest in, but they don't want to enter into a direct clash. Turkey has such mechanisms with the US and Russia. Israel had a mechanism with Russia as well in Turkey, in Syria, and so this is what's on the table right now. Israel also recognizes that Turkey's regional role is expanding in this new post-October 7th reality. You have the non-Muslim regional powers, which are Israel, Iran, and Turkey, and they're trying to kind of cut the cake in a way that suits everyone. Now, Israel's not engaged in talks with Iran, but it is engaged in talks with Turkey, trying to find some common ground and to kind of lower the tensions. And so these talks in Baku are important. I agree that you should disregard the inflammatory rhetoric that is coming from Erdogan, which is sole purpose is for internal political gains. Ultimately, both Israel and Turkey, by the fact that they're holding these talks in a non-secretive way, this is over the table, unlike the talks with Syria, is an indication that they're both openly willing to try and find a way to manage this new reality in a way that doesn't lead to an open conflict between the sides.
All right, Ariel, Yaakov, stay with me, and I want to thank Sultan Zahidov and Eytan, Cohen, Yanarocak for your analysis, for coming on tonight.